Okay, today we're gonna do cedar. We went out and gathered the cedar a couple of days ago. We did the tobacco prayer so it would share its magical powers, spiritual powers, and healing powers with us. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it does throughout the video, but I'm going to teach you a couple of ways that we're going to make the cedar. But if you come over here really quickly, you're going to see the way we gather the cedar. What we want are these parts here. You'll notice that it's light green, and those are the tips. What we gathered, for example, was some of this here. You don't necessarily need that big stalk. You could have actually picked it like that and brought home your cedar like that. But we're gonna make cedar water, so we cut a little bit of this stuff so we could add it into the water. Now, as you're picking these, you'll notice that some of them actually have real long stalks here that don't have the woody part on it. And what we do with that is we make cedar sticks, and we put them all together like this, and we can hang it over the door of our houses and all that other wonderful stuff. I just use thread. We'll tie it there and just wrap it around all the way up, holding it like this. Wrap it all the way up, wrap it all the way back, and then tie it off. They're doing half hitches all the way up every once in a while, just in case it falls apart. And then from there you'll have something like this. And I tie a string on this side and that side like a picture frame, and then I hang it above the door. It's awesome. Right? And so that's cedar sticks. And you could use it for smudging when they're dry. Add them into your fire as a whole smudge basket, right? And so you'll notice what I did here when I'm cutting it. I grab all of my stalks and I put them all together at the end like this. And don't put too many in there at one time. And then I pull it all back like that. And you don't necessarily have to do this part. I do it just because I like to do that little bit extra where more the product or the plant is getting release points on it. And that's what I'm doing here, is I'm giving the medicine more release points by making it smaller. And so I'm doing this outside right now for two reasons. Last night when I did it in the house, all of this stuff here, it was strong. Like, I mean strong. And so this part that I just showed you just now is all of this part here that I did. Now, once all that's done, I got some choices here to do. And so I'm gonna just use an example. I could fill this one, but I'm gonna do this one because the oil's not mine and I'm trying not to use too much of it. And so this one here, all I'm gonna do is put about 3/4 level. And then from there, I'm gonna add my oil. I would drain that right out, but I'm doing this fast right now. And I'm gonna add a little bit more because the way it looked, I didn't think I needed to, but I can add just a little bit more. Make sure it's all covered. The oil covers it all. So there you go. And now the lid goes on. I have some labels downstairs that I already made. Cedar oil made with olive oil. And what I'm gonna do with this now is I'm gonna put it in a double boiler. And slowly, I mean, everything's gotta be slow. When you're doing oils, everything has to be slow. I'm gonna slowly bring this up to temperature, and then I'm gonna take it out, let it cool off, bring it back in there again. I'm gonna do that about 6 times. After that, then I'm gonna put it in a cool, dark place and leave it for 4 to 6 weeks. The longer, the better, right? So that's the oil, straight oil, fast, easy, down and dirty. And so the other route that I'm going to teach you, and this one here is really lengthy, but it's really well worth it because you're going to wind up with cedar water, cedar oil. And what we do there is, I'm just using this as an example, but I'm probably going to cook mine inside. And so I found this guy here at the dollar store. It's a turkey base. You put a chicken over top of it, what you do, right? And my regular old pot. And you put this in there, and then you find another, either glass or stainless steel of some sort. You're going to use this, right? And then, come here, take a look, and then you're going to put it on top. And from there, I'm going to put my lid on top of that. Now, with the lids, you're going to notice this one has a little hole in it. That's no good. That's no good. The steam's going to steam out. So you got to make sure that the lid itself has one place where the water will condense and drip down onto here, and then it'll drip into there. When you grab that water out of there, you're going to see a layer. And that layer, you can use a baster to scrape, kind of squeeze that layer of top oil off, or you can use cotton balls and just dab it on the top, and it'll soak up the oil, and then from there you squeeze the oil out into another container. Right? Now this here, when you're doing this part, I can add the whole stock like that. But like I said, when I do my stuff, I kind of really am a big believer in the more space that things have to sift out in, the more medicinal values you're going to get from it. Right? And so I cut mine all up. And so what I'm going to do now is just add a whole bunch of this. Now, the amount of cedar that I used to cut that box full, I would never be able to fit it all in here. But because I cut it all up, I can fit it in there. And you'll see that it's about halfway up. If you notice, it's about halfway up. And from there, I went out and I gathered fresh spring water. Try not to ever use tap water, especially when you're making any medicinal things. The chlorine and the bleach and all that stuff that's in the water kills the medicine. So if you can, just go to the creeks or spring or whatever and get fresh water. Now here, all I'm going to do is add water. Until it's almost at the top of that guy, that little thing. And then I'm going to put this on there. And then I'm going to put my lid on there. And then I'm going to turn my stove on and bring this to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, you can turn it down. Probably on my electrical stove, I turn it down to about 4. And that keeps the steam going, and it keeps the water going in. Now, one of the things that I kind of giggled about, but it works like a hot damn, is if you put ice on here. And when you put ice on top of your lid, it'll definitely melt, so you got to watch it and make sure you have one of those turkey basters to squeeze the water out and dump it in somewhere else. But what that does is it cools the lid off and condenses the water, so it happens faster, because this is a slow process. Now, the best part about this process is throughout that, while I'm getting my really good cedar oil and my really good clear cedar water, I'm also going to keep adding water into my tank here, because when I'm done the really good stuff, well, now I'm going to filter all that water that I boiled, and now I have cedar water I can put in a spray bottle and spray my walls down or spray my skin down with it if it's got all rashy and stuff like that. Because when it comes to cedar, a lot of the spiritual aspects that come to our enlightenment is wards off evil. It brings long life and good luck to people. It repels any negative energies that are out there, and it's definitely a symbol of strength and rejuvenation. It's an antidepressant, so it works awesome for depression. The oil is used with people that have ADHD, ADD. It gives a calming effect, so any of those diseases as well. It also stimulates the mind, so when you're kind of foggy and in a cloud, just rub the oil under your nose a little bit. You use it to bless your home. Like I said, once we clean our house out, we'll hang either a cedar bough above our door, but I thought this is really cool. Might as well use this because that looks really cool too, right? And definitely people will see it and question it, and then you get a teachable moment when people ask, oh, what is that there? Our First Nations people used to get our umbilical cords and whatever's left of the baby, all that blood and stuff, and we would bring that to a cedar tree and bury it by the cedar tree, or else we'd find a big old growth cedar stump, and we'd put the umbilical cord and stuff within that stump, or bury it by a living cedar tree, and that would bring our children long lives and protection forever and ever and ever. Okay. Medicinally, it's an anti-inflammatory, antifungal. It reduces hardening of the arteries. The oil is used for putting on warts. Used in a bath, you just put the oil in Epsom salts first. Put the oil in Epsom salts, let it soak up a bit, then add the Epsom salts to your bath water, and it'll fight dry skin and skin infections and stuff like that. The oil is really good for the lungs as well, for breathing. If you add it into your shampoo and then wash your hair with it, you'll get all the benefits of that, because the oil itself actually helps hair grow. The oil is good for arthritis and rheumatism as well, and for bronchitis. It's used for a lot of different things. Now, so this is route 1, fast, simple, easy. This is route 2, and remember, this one has to be in a double boiler, in, out, bringing up the heat, because it's the heat that reduces the medicinal stuff in it. The other route that I'm going to do is right here, and so I'm going to use a slow cooker, and this guy here is probably going to cook for at least 4 to 5 days. And what you do here is you just fill her up again. This one here, I usually fill up a fair amount, and then once I get that done, then I get my oil, spread it around. And this is going to be strong in your house, so you got to be really loving the smell of it if you want it. And once I get my oil in there, and I got my trusty little chopstick, and I'll just stir it around, put a lid on it, and bring it up really slowly again, and make sure you keep it low as you can go. Do not boil, because boiling's bad. And so on my one crock pot where I would have made a bigger batch if I had more oil, that crock pot there on warm is too hot. Or I mean on low, it's way too hot. So that one there, I actually have to have it on warm right from the get-go. And it seems to be a good temperature. And so it's all about not bringing it to a boil and killing the medicinal value. Just bring it to us. You're heating it up. And I think that's about it. And once you get all this stuff done, you just strain it out. And what I found was, if I cut the toe off of a nylon, I spread the nylon over top of this, tip it over, and then I dump it out. And then from there, I just squeeze the nylon out, and then the nylon gets offered back to Mother Earth after that. Like, I empty the medicine out and sprinkle it around and offer it back to Mother Earth. This here, it's just a matter of straining it out, dumping it through some cheesecloth into another container, and getting rid of the bits and pieces. The more bits and pieces that you get rid of, the better it is, and the less chance you have it for going rotten later on. And I hope that helps you on the cedar gathering. And remember, laughter is the best medicine. Have a great day.